All right, let's do this question now. The parasitic dodder plant increases its reproductive success by flowering at the same time as the host plant it latched onto. In 2020, this guy and his colleagues determined that the tiny dodder achieves this dash with its host by absorbing and utilizing a protein the host produces when it's about to flower. Now, this is words in context, vocabulary in context question. And we know whenever we answering vocabulary in context questions, we can have words that are similar in meaning. However, whatever word we pick will depend on the context in which it is required. So over here, when we see this, whenever we're attempting these, it's very common that you have students say, I don't know the meaning of this word, that's why I didn't pick it, or I had no idea about it, so I just didn't know the meaning. I don't know how to navigate around it. First approach to answering a vocabulary in context question is read the paragraph and see what word, what blank you would fit, what would fit in there, your own choice. What choice of your own word would you put in there? And then try to think of synonyms based on that word. And then see which one of the four options matches that best. If not, you can also go to the options directly, see which one fits it best, and put it there. So sometimes it's not that clear cut. Here, and like in most of the SAT questions, if not all, your answers will be in the paragraph itself. Over here, it says the parasitic dodder plant increases its reproductive success by flowering at the same time as the host plant it latched onto. At the same time. So we're looking for something that's representing something simultaneously, right? So here, determined that the tiny dodder achieves this dash. Let's look at the words now. Synchronization, that means in harmony. I think this fits. At the same time means it's in harmony with whatever the process is happening. This is a possibility. Let's look at the other options. Hibernation won't fit here. It's out of context. Why would a plant hibernate if we're saying they're both flowering at the same time? This is a misfit. Prediction, it's not that one event is occurring before or after the next. We're not predicting how the next plant will flower. That's also off. Moderation, it has nothing about that in terms of frequency. That's off. We're left with A because synchronization matches most closely with simultaneously or at the same time. Okay. All right, let's do another question. Here, even before I look at the passage, the question is a main purpose question. It's asking the why. Whenever you have a main purpose question, the primary purpose question, it's asking the why. Why is the passage talking about this? Why is this particular topic being discussed? Let's see. In 2007, computer scientist Louis von Ahn was working on converting printed books into a digital format. He found that some words were distorted enough that digital scanners couldn't recognize them, but most humans could easily read them. Based on that finding, von Ahn invented a simple security test to help automated bots out of websites. The first version of the reCAPTCHA test asked users to type one word and one of the many words scanners couldn't recognize. Correct answers proved the users were humans and added data to the book digitizing project. Okay, now let's see overall what this passage is talking about. It's introducing reCAPTCHA, why it was created, and what its story was. Is it discussing the invention of reCAPTCHA? Is it explaining how digital scanners work? Does it call to attention the project and what it included? Does it indicate the popularity of reCAPTCHA? Does it? The main purpose. So why are they talking about reCAPTCHA in this context? The fact that it was designed, it was a new addition to the digital scanners, right? A, to discuss von Ann's invention of reCAPTCHA. Yes, this is a possibility because throughout the passage, they're discussing the reCAPTCHA, the fact that it was created to weed bots out of the system, to confirm that it was actually a human being who was using the system. B, to explain how digital scanners work. This can't be it, because if it was talking about how digital scanners work, then there should have been a comparison as to how the old scanners worked and how the new digital scanners revolutionized that. To call attention to the book digitizing project, it's not about the project. The project was only mentioned in passing towards the end, that this was a part of it. This is not what the main idea, this is not why it's talking about it. To indicate how popular recaptcha is, again, if it was talking about its popularity, they should have compared it to other such inventions, or even mentioned there should have been stats, figures, and numbers explaining its popularity in different regions or in different areas of expertise. B is out. We're left with A. Let's do another question. Okay. Conventions of standard English. This is a grammar question. Even before I look at the passage, when I look at the options given, I can see commas, 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 and I see critic, Steiner, Chine, claims. Critic, designation, Steiner, Chine, name. So when I see something like this, immediately I know they're testing my knowledge of essential, non-essential, and commas. By default, if it is non-essential, a non-essential phrase is what? Is any phrase that if you remove it from the sentence still makes sense, correct? So, and also the other thing is whenever it's a non-essential phrase, it will have either commas on either side of the phrase or parentheses or dashes. Let's see what's happening over here. Here, now we have to decide whether the critic, the designation, or the name Steiner Chine, is it essential in the context of the passage? In 1937, Chinese-American screen actor Anna May Wong, who had portrayed numerous villains and secondary characters, but never heroine, finally got a starring role in Paramount Pictures' Daughter of Shanghai, a film that, critic Steiner Chine claims, expanded the range of possibilities for Asian images on screen. Okay. If I remove the name Steiner Chine, Paramount Pictures' Daughter of Shanghai, a film that critic claims expanded the range of possibilities. Critic who? Doesn't make sense. Critic claims. Critic Steiner Chine claims, again, the same thing here, but then there's also a comma straight after. Why would we have a comma straight after the verb and the quotation that follows? Unnecessary. C, critic Steiner Chine claims. No punctuation whatsoever, no commas, indicating that it's essential. Makes sense. D, critic Steiner Chine. Again, there's a breather and there's claims. If there's commas on either side, if I consider it a non-essential and I just remove it, a film that critic Steiner Chine and then around the quotation doesn't make sense. Here, we're left with C. Also, primarily because in this context, we need the name of the critic and we need the word critic as well. The critic, Steiner Chine, claims. So this is a critic specific to this scenario. It's a film critic. We're left with C, essential. Therefore, no commas anywhere. Okay. Let's do another grammar question, standards of English convention. Whenever it comes to these grammar questions, it's a good idea to scan the options before you approach the paragraph. Actually, you can do that in all of the question types. Here, I can see though, everywhere. So immediately I know they're testing either my transitions, they're testing my transitions, okay? The only annoying thing over here, I personally find annoying, is this colon. It's a misfit everywhere else. So, and they've been doing this a lot. They've been testing the colon over the recent digital SAT papers. In this context, if it's a colon, where do we use a colon? It's a misfit. I'm going to address that first. Where do we use a colon? We use a colon either for an explanation, a definition, or a list. Are any one of those things happening over here? Let's see. In 1943, in the midst of World War II, mathematics professor Grace Hopper was recruited by the US military to help the war effort by solving complex equations. Hopper's subsequent career would involve more than just equations, though. As a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help usher in the digital age. As a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help usher in the digital age. So this is what she did. Okay, and the statement just before that says, Hopper's subsequent career would involve more than just. So something in addition to that. So initially, she was hired to solve complex equations. Then her career progressed with more than just that, more than just solving complex equations, right? Though, so that means here she was hired just to solve complex equations. However, we gave her more complex things to address. So there, in that context, the transition though fits as a contrast, right? And it's put towards the end. That's why you have a comma just before it. However, let's look at the second half as well. Is it explaining it? Is it defining it? Is it elaborating it? As a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help usher in the digital age. So yeah, here is a person who's assigned or hired just to solve complex equations, recruited to solve complex equations, and on this side, here she is bringing in this digital age, ushering in the digital age, bringing this whole reformation in computer programming. So it went through the roof, right? So it is elaborating on what is being said. In that case, the colon is a good fit because of the second half of the passage here. And because it's a transition, we have and it isn't added in the beginning of the sentence, we add it towards the end, which is why you have only one comma. Let's look at the other options still. Equations, though, if we take B, and if it's a transition and it's got commas on either side of it, can be used as a non-essential. Let's see. Hopper's subsequent career would involve more than just equations. As a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help usher in the digital age. Sure, that does fit a little bit. There does. But it's not nailing the explanation that occurs straight after. If you look at C, more than just equations, and then it starts off with a contrast. Although, as a pioneering computer programmer, Hopper would help in, again, it kind of sets off what the first half was saying. Misfit. Equations, though, no punctuation, straight up out. Doesn't make sense. You need to have some kind of punctuation. Two factors. Number one, there is an explanation or an elaboration happening straight after, or because of the transition just before that, the end of that former statement. So we're left with A.